You. Our next segment of the program, we're about to have the launch of the report with SCAI and MAPIC, and we'll also be having the Deloitte presentation for all of you, a very rich, insightful-led session coming your way. If I can please request all the ones who are still standing, please take your seats. All the ones who are interacting with our previous speakers, if I can request you, please take the discussion offline. We need to honor our next speaker's time as well. If I can request you all to please take your seats. That being said, let's go ahead with the launch of the report with SCAI and MAPIC. If I may please invite on stage Rajat Wahi, partner Deloitte India, Praveen Govindu, partner Deloitte India, Mukesh Kumar, CEO Quest Properties India Limited, Ashna Gemini Sharan, portfolio director MAPIC India. May I further please invite on stage Abhishek Bansal, executive director Pacific Mall, Rajneesh Mahajan, CEO Inorbit Mall. May I also please invite Anuj Kejriwal, Managing Director and CEO Anurok Retail, Shibu Philip, Director Shopping Malls, Lulu Group India, to please come on stage. Well, let's have all of you on the stage. It's time for us to... If I may also please invite Mr. Anand Ramanathan from Deloitte to please come on stage. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to quickly request, there are a lot of people who are still seated, and we need to also ensure they can watch what's happening on the stage. All those who are still standing here, if you can please take your seats. And for those who are seated, let me inform you that we are about to launch the report with SCAI and MAPIC. So let's have the reports on the stage, please. After this, we'll also have the presentation as the report unveils. It looks like all our dignitaries are on the stage, so we can go ahead and get the reports on the stage, please. Audience, dear audience, please, a quick request, if you can please take your seats. There are a lot of them who are still seated, and we need to be sure they can also watch what's taking place on the stage. I'm going to request our previous set of speakers to please take your discussions offline. Thank you. The reports are being launched, and while the unveiling is done, I'm going to request everyone to please hold your reports, and let's have you all come together for a group photograph. And for those who are wondering what are the insights inside the report, let me tell you, we'll also be having a presentation on it, so stay tuned. Some really rich insights coming your way in just a minute, so I'm going to request everyone to please stay tuned. Thank you very much. While I request you all to take your seats, we have with us Mr. Praveen Govindu, partner Deloitte India, to share the presentation around the report as well. It's time for us to understand. I'd like to once again quickly request everyone, please take your seats. We have ample time for discussion offline. Take your seats. We have with us Mr. Praveen Govindu. With that, over to you, sir.
Thank you. Can you all hear me? We'll just give it a minute.
Cordless one on standby. Should I go in?
We can start? Yeah. Okay, thanks everyone. Welcome, and really nice to see all of you. So my name is Praveen Govindu, partner with the Deloitte Consulting Practice. I do a lot of work in the retail and consumer space. So, before we we've launched this white paper. Before I take you to some of the key findings in the white paper, I thought I'll just share a small story, in fact, an observation, right? So I was actually at a mall on the Sunday, and I've been to the mall after almost like 4 weeks, by the way, because I had a leg injury and I was immobile for almost 3-4 weeks. So, and I moved to a location just a couple of months back. We moved to a different place, rented out a different place, and the biggest, the proposition of that place was it is connected to a mall. And we came into the place, but then I couldn't visit the mall, and it's been like 4 weeks, right? So I was like raring to go, and then almost 4 weeks I had to wait, and then last Sunday I was there, and it was like I felt like, okay, now I've come back into the world, right? So that is the kind of feeling when we are in a mall, and it's great. Thanks to Shopping Center Association of India for giving Deloitte an opportunity as well to collaborate on this knowledge paper. And one other question I have, did any of you here visited the mall alone anytime? A raise of hands, alone, going to the mall alone. Oh, there are a few. I thought there won't be any, but there are a few, which is good, because I was actually, the other day when I was there, I was actually alone, right? So I was like trying to see if there is anybody else in the mall who was alone. But again, very few, right? Majority of the time, the mall is a family destination, and I think that's one big proposition that a mall carries, right? It is for the entire family, looking at multiple avenues, entertainment, movie, shopping, dining, right? So, yeah. So coming back to the report now. Okay. So in India, the organized retail space is almost close to 55-60 billion dollars, right? Out of which shopping centers and malls contribute almost close to 20%. And how many of you are aware of this again? This number, this is huge, right? Almost $10 billion is coming to the shopping centers and the malls of the country, almost contributing to 20% of the organized retail sales in India. And obviously, the key drivers, we all know, there is increasing disposable income. Consumerization is rising, right? I mean, consumerism is on the rise. And then obviously, the idea is the mall, basically, the shopping centers give that avenue for people to kind of go and indulge in that, right? And it kind of also, I think we were in a conversation in the morning today, like internet has democratized power, in some sense malls have also democratized the access, right? I mean, pretty much anybody can come into a mall. It's a public infrastructure, democratized access. It doesn't distinguish or differentiate between people who are walking into a mall, right? So that to that extent, I think it's a great leveler and also a great force, right? And beyond shopping, dining, the malls also obviously appeal to a certain other set of key drivers, right? Whether it is a place to socialize and spend time, with family. In fact, when my parents visited again, right? In particular, I come from Bangalore. Otherwise, I am from Visakhapatnam, right? And when I was a kid, the only place or the only avenue for us to go out was the beach, right? So, and in Bangalore, when we relooked, and obviously most of my adult life has been in Bangalore. What do we do in Bangalore? Either I go to Western Ghats, which is almost 5 hours from Bangalore, or the mall, right? There's nothing else. So whoever comes, first thing is let's go to the mall. So it's a great place to socialize, spend time. Obviously, safe, secure, right? A lot of facilities. But most importantly, I think it's also a place where, you also have great experiences, right? It's obviously there is a mall, and then there are a lot of tenants in the mall who also provide a lot of experience, to you as a consumer. So to that extent, they are again very significant in the larger scheme of things. This is just obviously a map which shows how the malls are spread across India. Obviously, NCR, Mumbai, Bangalore, they contribute to a large proportion of the malls and the square feet in the malls. But increasingly, we are seeing beyond the top 8 cities, right? There's a lot of aspiration, and again, access is limited. So going forward, we will also see a lot of malls coming up in Tier 2, Tier 3, meeting their requirements and aspirations as well. And I think in some sense, probably, we were again in the morning conversation, one of the gentlemen said, they're seeing orders coming from almost 450 towns in India. So there are 450 towns, and this is a premium to luxury brand, seeing that kind of a demand. So very clearly there is aspiration in tier 2, tier 3, and in some of those towns. So we will soon start seeing a lot of investment happening in those places as well. So this is a very interesting slide, and we were also not aware, honestly, before we did this report. The entire shopping center association, the mall association, malls in India, they contribute to almost 1.8 lakh crore of revenues. That's almost close to 2 times the airline industry, and probably 2 to 3 times the hotel industry, right? It's very huge. In fact, the kind of employment it generates. Indian Railways generates employment of about 1 million. The mall ecosystem, the shopping center ecosystem, including the entire indirect, direct employment, is 10 times of that. 12 million people are employed in this, right? So it's huge. Contributes to almost 2% of the GST collections. Obviously, an investment of 1 to 1.5 lakh crores in fixed assets, right? So the magnitude of this entire ecosystem is huge, and it's very important to take notice of this. And obviously, on the back of this is obviously this is the supply that is created. There's a huge demand that it is catering to, right? But I was really surprised when we estimated that this is almost close to 2 lakh crores in terms of revenue generation. We also did a survey, as we were doing this report, we also did a survey in terms of, beyond what we all know, are there certain other trends driving a consumer to a mall or a shopping center, right? So most of these are very, we all do this. So 82% clearly said we come into a mall for shopping, 73% watching movies. In fact, one of the interesting observations, and we were in a discussion with somebody from Singapolis and some other brands in that mall, right? Once a movie theater and a food court opens, pretty much the footfalls double or triple, right? So obviously watching movies and shopping are high. Leisure, dining are the other important reasons. Festival celebration, right? Obviously, in fact, now there are a lot of events that are happening inside the mall, right? Whether it's birthdays or any of those other things where you want to celebrate beyond the festivals. A lot of those also, now the destination is a mall, right? And this is also one of the other things, right? We also try to understand as an avenue, malls versus some of the other choices that a consumer has. Why do they, and which of those areas, they would really prefer a mall over some of the other avenues, right? And clearly, things like cleanliness, accessibility, the aesthetics and the ambience, prices, parking. So a lot of these reasons, malls and some of these places actually came at the top. And as a consumer, increasingly, malls are bringing that traditional ways of shopping with modern ways of experiences, right? And that's what the malls are providing us to the consumers. And almost on all these factors, malls came up as the key places where a consumer would want to go to. We further asked them in terms of beyond some of these tangible factors, are there any other intangibles that we also see when a mall, let's say, opens up, right? Again, let's say enhanced sense of belonging to that locality. I'm a very perfect example of this. The reason we chose that locality was because it was all well connected. In fact, honestly speaking, in that locality, beyond the mall, there was nothing else. So the only reason we relocated to the place was we had everything. The locality is connected to the mall, and the mall, it's a new mall, right, in South Bangalore. So yes, your sense of belonging to that locality pretty much happens with that, right? You have an enhanced sense of connectivity. Now, obviously, there are a lot of these malls which are also coming up, co-located with, let's say, a metro station or any of those sorts, which also enhance the connectivity angle to it. Your sense of safety, right? Again, an interesting thing. Obviously, I don't know whether it is, obviously there's now Gen Zs and, some of the millennials. But still I see when some of my relatives, they've been giving advice, right? And some of these marriage proposals that keep happening. So my nephew is actually in that process. So my mom-in-law is basically telling him, okay, when you guys go and meet, why don't you go to a mall and meet, right? So I don't know. It's open to comprehension, but probably it's a sense of security that it creates, right? And most importantly, I think obviously any infrastructure that comes up has an impact on the catchment, including the entire real estate and the overall element of modernization that you see. So again, most people have said in a survey that this really led to a spike in pricing and real estate in that catchment. So what are the implications for business, right? While this is from the consumer side, from a business perspective, does it really make any difference to have a presence in a mall? And again, we do a lot of work with retailers. They have multiple channels of sales, right? They have their traditional general trade or multi-brand outlets. Then they would have e-commerce. They would have large format retail. They would have their own exclusive outlets, right? And obviously malls, is also on their anvil in terms of when they open any new outlet. So very clearly, in most of the businesses, what we clearly see is the preference of customers, walking into a mall and walking into an outlet of theirs is much higher, right? So new brands, when they want to expand into a new city, the first thing they would like to see is which are the malls where they could open a new outlet. And even within the same city, right? New catchments. If somebody wants to get into new catchments, again, what are those malls, right? Which are available. So there's very clearly a lot of focus from a lot of these retail brands to have their presence in a good mall where the footfalls are guaranteed, right? And one of the biggest challenges and most money in e-commerce, for example, we all know, is spent on customer acquisition. So, and then now today there is technology to have a better conversion once you have a footfall. So getting that guaranteed footfalls is very critical for a lot of brands. And if malls are able to provide that, most brands are preferring to have their presence in the malls, right? And that's coming out very clearly. Again, obviously the overheads, etc., maintaining of the store is much is easier, better in a mall. And what we have also seen is malls have almost 1.5 times footfalls, right, compared to a high street or any other such avenue. And I think one of the other important things we also felt is the question is around experience. Where does a brand feel that they are able to provide a better experience vis-a-vis the multiple options that they have? So again, malls, shopping centers came out as the top, obviously because there's an entire ambience to it, which is also playing a role. But beyond that, the consumer is also able to experience the entirety of that brand's proposition within the mall environment. Because the journey starts all the way from, let's say, parking to walking into the store, right? So every element has to be managed pretty well for him or her to get the right experience. Again, malls play a large role there. So in fact, on the international front also, we spoke to a few international brands, right? Again, giving them the choice of if they were to enter India, what will be again their preferred mode of entry, right? From a point of sale or an avenue perspective. Again, malls stand out because they also want to see them being in that peer group where they also see some of the other brands and then they are also establishing their presence. So again, for international brands, malls are a big avenue to enter India. So huge impact from a business standpoint. So given all of this, we also thought, how does it play out, right, going forward? So while I said about in 2023, $60 billion, about 20% is malls, we expect this to significantly grow to almost 30% in the next 5-6 years. So let's say if the organized retail, we expect it to grow to almost $140 billion. The malls and the shopping centers, this side of retail sales is almost expected to contribute 30%. So that's a huge number. It's almost like $50 billion of sales coming from the mall ecosystem, and obviously it's very critical that some of the other challenges with respect to how this, because at the end of it, it's also important we address some of the challenges today. Obviously, there are certain challenges the malls face. whether it is on the taxation front, because it's not also an industry status that has been accorded to the malls, right? So some of those obviously will play a role. Maybe the credit availability, the interest rates that the mall owners have to pay for the infrastructure, etc. Some of those will still not classified as industry, so they're probably still not getting the best terms, right? But then I think it is very important that we see this whole thing from the lens of the future growth, and from that perspective, in terms of whether it's employment, whether it's some revenues, in terms of the gateway to international brands, and most importantly, a place where a consumer is able to spend the time, socialize, and it's also a cultural thing, right? The malls also are shaping how the cultures are responding to the modern times. So a lot of those elements are expected to shape how future of malls is going to look like. So yeah, these are certain challenges which obviously need to be sorted out, but the important thing is this sector is expected to grow big and almost become 30% of the organized retail going forward. So that's broadly what I had. Happy to take any questions. I know time's up here, but one or two questions, if there's anything, happy to answer. Yes. Okay, for the rest of benefit of everyone, the question is, do we see e-commerce driving retail, which is offline, or is it the other way around? I think, sir, maybe just to answer you, we do a lot of work with retail, right? I think that distinction between offline and online is kind of blurring. Now, pretty much all brands want to be available, at any place that the consumer is expecting them to be available. Whether it is e-commerce, whether it's in a mall, whether it is offline, whether their own exclusive outlets, right? So, and then obviously there's a lot of investment that's happening in creating that seamless experience across channels. So now the question is, how can we give that kind of a seamless omni-channel experience to my consumer across? And in that sense, even malls, right? And again, in the morning today, I think we were with the gentleman from Lulu Mall, right? So, the malls also are now trying to create platforms to enable omni-channel, right? As a mall, it's like a large marketplace, right? You create a marketplace platform where all the brands tap into, and then the brands can provide omni-channel experience to their end consumers, through the mall platform. So just to answer you, I think it's more omni-channel, where, I think having that single view of customer across channels, single view of inventory across channels, single view of the product across channels is going to become critical going forward. Great. So thank you so much. Sorry, one question there.
Yeah, hi. My name is Amir. I'm from Metro Brands Limited. Fantastic numbers. I see why the mall culture has been cropping up in the past decade. So going forward, my question is, how do you see business on high street versus a mall? Do you think business at high street will phase out or die or decline eventually in the future, and malls is the only way to go, is my question.
Sure. See, I'll give my point of view. Obviously, after 5 years, I'm not sure, you can quote me on that, but I think high streets and malls anyway cater to two different kinds of audiences, or probably cater to different kinds of needs, right? Honestly speaking, I'm not too sure if there is like any competition between a high street and a mall. To me, a mall is a family destination, right? Where I'm able to take the entire family, starting from the kids to my parents to friends, relatives. So there's clearly, it's a destination that is driving the mall, and obviously as we go there, obviously there's shopping, there's dining, there's entertainment, there are a lot of other things that are available and possible for us. So it's more the destination driving. To me, high street overall as a high street could be a destination, right? And since some of these high streets also have a certain legacy attached to them, right? It's not like the high street has happened, just a few months or a year back. There is also a certain legacy attached to high streets, and I think that would continue. But then the convenience of probably shopping, because today we are, as a consumer, we are pampered with convenience, whether it is 10-minute delivery or whether it is, the other models, right? So, which is the one which gives you maximum convenience and value for money? Obviously, Indians, there is always, will be value for money, price conscious. So, some of those are probably like, in our DNA, right? But given all of those, which is the one which gives maximum convenience? I think finally that would play a larger role. And if you see today, if you have to compare high streets and malls, maybe high streets are still destinations for exploring, and it's actually still a socializing destination. Right? Gen Zs and millennials would want to hang out, but from a family perspective, for the entire there's still probably the malls which will score higher. So I think they'll still continue to coexist. But having said that, maybe the percentage of buying will move away from high street to malls, while the experience and some of the just to be present on a high street will continue. Those are more like flagship stores. Maybe create a brand around it to continue that awareness. But the actual buying could shift towards malls. Okay, thanks so much. Thank you.